Hello choppers and welcome to our preview of Reputation, an auction bidding push your luck game by Ninja Star Games for 3 to 5 players, ages 13 up, and plays in about 45 minutes. During this game, you take on the role of a CEO of a corporation, and you're trying to bid on public sector projects as well as private sector projects in order to have reputation and the most income at the end of the game. The game is played out over 10 rounds. To begin, the players will each pick a CEO and a corporation. Now the cards have matching symbols in the upper right hand corners, so if you want to play matching CEOs with their corporations you can. Otherwise, you shuffle up the CEOs and pass them out randomly to players, and then you shuffle up the corporations and pass one out randomly to each player. Or players can choose their own CEOs and corporations that they like. CEOs have a special ability on them that can happen anytime during the game or gives you endgame points. You can see here that Walker Tajimi has an agenda that says have 5 or more workers at the end of the game. You can see the corporation also has a special ability. You can see here that the Haisai Corporation has an overprescription ability that says once per game you can immediately return all of your workers from the holding area to your headquarters. Each player has a player mat that looks like so, which has their worker area, which is their headquarters, and also the rest area at top, which can hold 3 meeples. Once all players have their CEO and corporation cards, they will take a certain amount of meeple workers and place them in their headquarter areas of their player board, depending on the amount of players. Once all players have their meeples, they will take 10 private sector cards and 10 public sector cards and shuffle them each into their individual stacks. Then they will place them in the middle of the board in reach of everybody and put the appropriate tokens next to the decks. Beginning with the starting player, you will turn over a private sector project and a public sector project card, and then the bidding starts with the starting player. Starting with the private sector project, you either bid or pass. When you bid, you either bid one of your workers, or if there's already a bid there, you have to bid one more worker than what is already on that project. If you are the top bidder on the project, you will take the project's token and place it next to your board and place your workers next to the project. Then play will pass to the next player. If you pass, then you cannot bid on a project unless another player bids on it this round and it comes back to you. Bidding stops when all players have consecutively passed. If you are outbid at any time on a private sector project, you take your workers from beside the project and return them to the headquarters, the HQ section of your player board. Bidding on a public sector project works almost exactly the same, but with little differences. You can see that it has a number on it for the amount of profit that is gained. You put that many profit tokens next to the project. And there's also a number on there, which is the amount of workers that have to be placed there whenever you bid on it. Now, unlike private sector bidding, you do not have to place more than that amount on there. You do not have to outbid another player. But if you already have bid on a private sector project, you cannot win or bid on a public sector project for this turn. Whenever you bid on a public sector project, you have to move one or more of the profit tokens that are next to the public sector project over next to the private sector project. Once again, just like with the private sector project, once all players have passed consecutively, bidding ends for the public sector project, and the player will move that project next to their player board. Once the private sector bidding and the public sector bidding is finished, then comes what's called the co-sponsorship bidding. And this involves the person that won the public sector project and their 2 neighboring players. The player that won the public sector project will take the public sector token into their left or right hand secretly. And then the players on both of their sides of the public sector project winner will announce how many workers they have left over in their HQ. They will take into one hand the amount of workers that they are bidding, and they will take into their other hand the amount of workers that they are not bidding. And then they will extend out in front of them, closed, the hand of the workers that they are bidding. Once everybody has done this, they will open the hands of the workers they are bidding, and the player who has the most workers in their hand will win the co-sponsorship bidding with the public sector project winner. Once a co-sponsorship bidding winner has been determined, you move the public sector project in between those two players. If there's already a project there, you will slide it underneath so that only the reputation number is showing on the bottom of the stack. And then you can see the cards above it also. Then any workers that were bid will be placed on top of that card. The player that lost the co-sponsorship bid returns all their workers to their headquarters. And also the player that won the co-sponsorship bid returns the workers that were in his hand that were not the bid to his headquarters section of his player board. After this, any players that have workers that are on private sector projects in front of them or public sector projects between them may move one of their worker meeples from those projects to their rest area on their player board in front of them. Then, if it is not the 10th round, the first player marker moves to the player clockwise from that player, and a new round will begin where players will be able to move workers that are in their rest areas to their headquarters, and another private sector project and public sector project is turned out. At the end of the 10th round, players will total up how much reputation they have from the different projects that they have in front of them, as well as workers that are left over in their headquarters on their player board. The player with the lowest amount of reputation is eliminated. Then, players will total up the amount of profits that they have from the different projects in front of them, as well as ones that they've earned during the game. The player with the highest amount of profits wins reputation. Reputation is coming to Kickstarter soon, so make sure you keep an eye out for it. I'm Logan for Logan Chop's Previews. We'll see you next time. Happy gaming.